Oh shit. Oh, there we go. Oh my god.
Is it working?
Yeah, it's
Over
going.
there?
Yeah.
Oh, this. Oh, sorry. That's me. That's me.
Somebody like mute it. We're still working out the kinks. It's all good. Alrighty, so how's everybody doing?
Oh,
It
we are
is
here. Yeah, yeah, totally.
Tuesday. It is mixing it up. How you guys hopefully everybody's good. We got a great show planned for everybody. We are excited about this. Like seriously, we've been chatting up for like the last hour. Seriously, like we could have already done the show by now. But good times are gonna be had by all. So I wanted to do like something different from other vape shows, and we had talked about this, and like last time we kind of just jumped into it and we went haphazard at it a little bit. But I wanted to do, instead of like what are you vaping, what have you been mixing, and we're gonna go into that kind of thing. So let's start off with Mitch.
Well, today the only thing that I mixing on, I had somebody place a Lando special. He had a place to run of all of my custards, and then I did get to make that new one for that new orange strawberry banana for somebody that I'm excited to see where that goes. It reminded me, just the knuckle test, it reminded me of like an orange Julius.
Nice.
Like, and I'm excited to see kind of where that goes. So yeah, that's kind
Dude,
of
Orange Julius. I haven't had that since like the '90s when I used to be like a mall rat. It is fucking good though.
Dude, I never actually got to try Orange Julius's.
What?
Yeah, never
what?
did.
Like it was expensive. Even in the '90s, it was expensive, but it was
Yeah.
worth it.
Jamba Juice is the closest I came to Orange Julius's.
Jamba Juice.
Wow, that
Yeah,
sounds good though.
that's about all I've been kind of working on the last day or so. So I will I'll pass it off to Sifu.
All right. I am working on a gin mix right now. I'm working out the formula for it, the ratios, but I think this is going to be a winner. So I'm trying to do it as kind of a study on a boozy note. So I picked a boozy type of base and other components that will highlight that boozy note to see if we can really kind of get an alcohol type of drink out of it without actually putting a lot of alcohol in it. So that's kind of an experiment that I've been working on, and this is going to be the first time I've ever used the WS23 cooling at a very, very low percentage, because I've done some research on it and it said it can really, really lift up a fruit-based mix without it being cold.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to do that. I might even mix that tonight.
Ooh. You know what? I don't even own that concentrate.
It's a good menthol one, honestly. I've tried the WS3. That one you can use a little bit more and not be so precautious with it. But the 23 is something I've been wanting to get my hands on. So I've heard that one is good just for like an easy, quick menthol fix if you're trying to do something mentholated. And it doesn't have that weird effect that like Culata does.
It doesn't taste like mint though, right? Like
No.
it's literally just cooling. There's no
Yeah.
flavor.
Yeah, there's no flavoring. It's just cooling. It's just straight up cooling, man.
But it smells cold. Well, actually, it doesn't
It
smell
smells
like
cold.
it doesn't smell like anything.
Huh. So it's like sweetener. Like sweetener to me, it
additive.
doesn't smell like anything.
Well, I'm treating it like an additive. It's going to be like a few drops, just to see. So, just to see if it kind of highlights that boozy. It lifts everything up and lets that alcohol come through. That's the experiment for this week.
So I just before like, I'll go in next.
Yeah, you're
But
next.
I have a question. I do have a question. So when you say boozy, like, do you want it to taste like it's an alcoholic drink? Like that is the goal?
Yeah.
And it's
Without using, I want to highlight the natural alcoholness of some of these flavors. Like when you smell them, you can smell. Yes, that would go with vodka. That would go with gin, like a spirit. Like specifically the cucumber in this mix. When you smell it, there's an alcohol note on the top of it. So I kind of picked some flavors that I thought would work with that without having to add a vermouth flavor or a bitters flavor or a vodka flavor or a martini flavor to see if we can get, you know, alcohol note without putting alcohol flavors, because I don't find that alcohol flavors work well as alcohol flavors unless they're with something else.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
Kentucky
like-
bourbon doesn't taste like bourbon, but if you mix it right, you really get that bourbon.
You get that bourbon note.
You get a bourbon note. It doesn't taste like bourbon, but you get a bourbon note.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see if I can build this as an alcohol drink without putting a lot of alcohol flavorings.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so as for me, okay, so I haven't actually mixed anything since last weekend. And last weekend I was basically just I was fucking around with like pears and creams and cheesecakes and stuff. But this week, actually today when I got home, there was an order on my doorstep, and it's some of the stuff that we talked about. I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago. It was like that. What is that? Pyrazine something?
Acetylprizazine. Yeah.
Yes. So like I got some of those things. So I'm gonna be messing around with those probably like this weekend, because I've put a bunch of time aside for this weekend. But I have recently got a couple of plum flavorings because I wanted to make like a sugar plum cookie. But
Ooh.
I'm trying to decide which one. I have I got an Inawera plum and I got a TFA plum, and so I just mixed them at 1%, and I've been like I knuckled them, then I was vaping them, and I'm trying like as I'm vaping them, I'm trying to decide like where I want to go with it, and which one I think is gonna do better, and like the vision, I guess, like, and the cookie that I want, and then obviously when you're doing those things, you have to decide how you're going to build that cookie. So I don't know exactly where I'm going to go from that. I know that there's some cookies that I have that I'm not going to be able to use because I don't think they're going to work well. But that's kind of more along the lines of like what I've been doing. I've been like just getting to know some flavors. Even last weekend, like when I was mixing with pear, I have never really mixed with pear before. Other than like putting in a little bit of pear to like help out another flavor or something like that. I've never made it so like pears kind of showcased. So I haven't been able to test those yet because I'm one of those people that I struggle to like test shit right away when I know that it's gonna only get better. So I'd rather just wait 2 weeks and then try it. Because then you kind of know where you are a little bit more than if you just mix it right away and you try it and you're like, oh, and then you're already trying to think about how to make it better when you don't know what it's gonna actually be.
Yeah.
But a note about that
How
AP.
about you?
A note about
sorry.
that AP. It will turn everything to Fritos real fast. Like.
Oh, really?
Like
When I
little-
smelt it, like I cracked it and I smelt it, I didn't even know what I thought it smelled like.
Smells like Fritos. Open a bag of Fritos. Put your nose in it. That's what the AP smells like, and it will turn to Fritos real quick. So
Well, I like Fritos.
Sparing.
I don't know if I want to
Sparing.
vape Fritos.
sparing.
It's the mozzarella vape all over again, Chris.
Oh, dude, that was disgusting.
We even talked about that last night on the Ohmies. It was kind of funny. Alrighty. As for me, I actually was working on new pictures for the site and stuff, trying to like revamp stuff, make everything nice and pretty. So I redid all 10 flavors that I do normally. That was a fun week. Did all that. Been working on a custard for like my own personal use, and still got that frosted nuts. I feel like I have it, and I'm not sure if I want to retry this like with the different ratios, because I think I'm quite there. Just knowing with like the steep time that I'm at right now, I think I'm 2 weeks in and it's already turned that color, and it's normally like a more paler color when you first like put it together. So we'll see. Been kind of a slowish week, kind of not all at the same time, because I'm just reworking out some recipes. I even am going to take a brave step and rework one of my older recipes. Like me and Chris talked about this a while back, and I'm like, you know what? My knowledge is a bit better, and I bet I can make it better. And we're going to try new and improved on one of the flavors. We'll see how this goes. But that's me. I've been keeping it very simple over
So
here.
a question, whenever
Mm.
you revisit a recipe, do you sub or do you change ratios or try to use a better
That's it. Like
flavoring?
this one, it's gonna be adding a bunch of things because I went really simple with it, and the flavor is good, and I like how it tastes, but it's not what it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna add a couple of different more things into it and see if that helps bring out that other note of the profile that's supposed to be there that isn't really quite there. So that's kind of what I'm working on, is just enhancing a couple of notes here and there, just so it's true to
That's
what
kind of
it's
part of
supposed
the
to be.
fun, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's fun nailing a recipe at a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you revisit it and like if you think about it, how many other liquids have you vaped and how many other liquids have you created and how many other flavorings have you got?
Mm-hmm.
And when you first start, you're kind of trying to like force things and like they fit okay, but you know that 2 years later, a year later, 6 months later, depending on how much you're mixing, depending on how much flavorings you're buying, you're gonna have something that fits that better.
Mm-hmm.
And you might really like the profile, but you don't want to give up on that profile, but you have that ability to make it something that you think at this present day would be better.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's
I was working
exciting
on,
to me.
yeah, I was working on on a mango champagne flavor, and I was kind of struggling with it a little bit. And then when I got Homeboy's mango, I was like, I'm looking at this all wrong, you know. So it's like it's important. You know, I'm guilty of that. I don't buy a lot of commercial liquids, but you know, it's important to go back and revisit those with people who have done something that have nailed something
Mm-hmm.
and draw inspiration from that that you can put into your own stuff. You know, I
I had
realized
a
I was going way too bright, way too bright, way too bright. I needed something earthy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Homeboy's mango, it's a candy, but it's got a deepness. You know, and it's like no, I was just looking at it all wrong. You know, so
I kind of had a similar kind of question for you guys. Like, say, the liquid you were talking about making, Chris. You know, when you guys decide you're gonna try a new recipe, do you get, because there, I mean, how many white peaches are there? There's, I mean, I've seen like 50 different ones. So do you just kind of get a few and kind of test them, or
Okay, so
do you
I
just go, well, I know
personally,
this brand, I like this brand.
now, I'm. It's different than when I first started. When I first started, I buy everything that I was like, oh, I want to make this. I'll buy like 4 different of this fruit, 4 different of that custard, 4 different of this cake, whatever. And I would just like literally, it was as simple as like I would smell it and then I just try mixing with it. I would do no research. I would just like I was basically like learning 100% on the fly. Now it's different because now if I want to make something and I don't know anything about it, I'll do research. I'll go on like ELR. Let's say that I want to get like a pudding flavoring, and because I want to make a pudding, and I'll go on ELR and I'll like type in pudding, and then I'll just look at other people's recipes and I'll click on like the pudding, like basically the pudding concentrates that they're using, and then I'll go to the notes. I read the notes. You see, what people mix at, like a single flavor, what they're getting out of it. There'll be people that put like such detailed notes. They'll have like they'll mix something at 1%, 2%, maybe even all the way up to 5%, and then they'll give it a certain amount of time. So it might be like right off the shake, this is what I got, and then they'll be like after a week, this is what I got. So you can kind of get to know the flavor without actually having the flavor. And I appreciate that everyone's tastes are different, but most people that put the notes in there, they take the time and they're very like they're trying to be unsubjective. Like they're trying not to say like I hate peanut butter, that's why this sucks. They're saying this is really nutty or this is earthy, or they'll break it down. So that's what I've tried to do, and then I also make my own notes. I remember this was probably, I don't know, like a bit over a year ago. I talked to Labworks, and Labworks said to me, he's like, you make as many notes as you can, and like labeling everything, like all your mixes, making all the labels, and you can even have like on your bottle, it'll say all your percentages. So you have like that quick reference. You're trying it and you're like, oh, I need to tone down the raspberry. What is that at? And you look and it's on your bottle, and then you can make the note or whatever. You know what I mean? You have a raspberry that works good in a bakery, but it doesn't work good in a fruit mix. So you just make those notes. So you're not relying all on your memory. So that's what I've tried to do. And it's taken me a long time to like get to basically the realization that you need to do those things in order to get better.
Right.
Because not everyone's going to have that memory where they're like, oh, I need something. You'll eventually maybe get there because you see people that do that, like on YouTube.
Yes.
There's people.
I mean, you're guessing at that point. I mean, like
Yeah,
the
like
same thing with
exactly.
this. I did the same thing for this vape, the VT gin. In the notes, somebody said it's more like uh, it's more like this gin as opposed to like it's more like a Tanqueray 10 as opposed to a Bombay Sapphire. And I'm like, I know those gins, and I like that one better. That's more of what I want. I don't want a strong juniper taste. I want that real bright, clean gin taste. And then that's why I picked this one, and then on smelling it, they're right on. So I'm very interested to try it. So.
Because yeah, like I genuinely feel that you can get enough information online, especially from like places like ELR, that you can take so much time away from what you're trying to do. Because if you try to do like if you have 100 flavorings and you try to make notes on every single one of those flavorings, and you try to like mix it and get to know that flavor, it's going to take you incredibly long. But if you can get to know that flavor somewhat by taking notes or reading notes or whatever else, that you can kind of like draw from other people's experience. And you don't have to make every mistake. You're still going to make mistakes. Everyone still does. But you kind of cut out some of that, wow, this is terrible. It just might be like, I can work with that. It might not be good, but I can work with that.
Yeah, I mean, Chris kind of hit it on the head. I mean, Chris, me and him, we've actually discussed this before. We like to do our research before buying flavorings and stuff. If I'm going into a mix with already like an idea of, well, this is what I want out of it, and I don't really have the necessary flavorings for it, I'll actually go through ELR, check what the notes are on certain flavors. Even like they do have, if you go on ELR, they have a flavor list. You could type in just the flavor type, like let's say raspberry. Type in raspberry, you set the ratings to the highest ratings, because if not, you're gonna have to dig through a bunch of different like either misspelled notes or things like that, because that does happen. Or you'll get a bunch of ones that don't make sense because they don't really actually make them. Somebody just wrote the wrong thing. So you look through the top ones and you start looking at what they recommend, what their like idea has, what their experiences have been with it, and I just kind of go off of that a little bit and trying to think of where am I going to head with this, what actually will work for me. And I do have, like me personally, I do have some brands that like I'm a little bit more I lean towards more. Like to me, like Capella is one of those ones I tend to like go towards more. I know Chris has been trying to get me on, was it Flavor Art? And
yeah, I just really like their shit. That's
so it's one of those things I'm gonna try to buy a couple more Flavor Art ones and try those out. I've been really liking the Perillums. TFA is kind of a staple. It's just I'm really weird about working with TFA, and then Flavora is something that honestly, dude, I get the price. I still think they're a little bit expensive, but I get it. I really do.
They do go a long way.
Yeah, they really do. Yeah, so that kind of leads us into main topic. We're gonna do like, since this is episode 2, last week you got to know us like as who we are as individuals, yada yada. And this one I wanted to be like, okay, so you want to DIY, what steps do you need to take from here? Like, where do you go? And I wanted to get we have like our own personal experience with it, but I wanted to see what you guys would have as recommendations, like for somebody just starting out, what would be the best way, or what do you feel would be the easiest route for them? Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
All right.
The what I generally recommend is the first things first is to get them to a calculator, you know, get familiar with the layout, what percentages means, you know, and just read the calculator, because all of the information is there for you. It breaks out the percentages. What does that mean? You can, you know, what does the grams mean? What does this mean? And then use the search function in there to find a profile that you want, just like you had said, Jay. You know, go there and you say, I really want a strawberry flavor. Just type in strawberry. Then go to the ratings, find the highest ones, and click through them, you know, and find one that you like. And if you like it, you know, write those notes down, you know, give them links to places to get flavorings and things like that, and then go that route. Or you can go to some place that already has one-shots made for you, so that they can get used to actually putting liquids into a bottle, because it is a foreign concept. You used to just, you grab a bottle, you open it, you put it in your tank. You know, the concept of getting all of this and putting little percentages into a bottle can be overwhelming. But if you have a one-shot concentrate, you know,
like the Liquid Barn ones.
Yes. So you pour that out, pour your Nick, you pour your VG, and it becomes a lot simpler in that regard, because like Chris was saying, you end up with a bunch of stuff that you don't know what to do with, you know, so it gets overwhelming. So for me, when I started out, I did it with one-shots, and I used the Liquid Barn scales, you know, the little scales on the bottle, and just poured it out to the percentage. And then once I got my scale, once I got the scale, then I went to Wayne's page on ELR and actually got the gram weight, and then actually sat and weighed it out, the one shot. And then I got good at that. And then that led into finding a recipe, getting flavors, and then getting them back. And then it's not such a foreign concept anymore from that point. Now you're used to pouring out drips of gram weight per flavoring to get it out, you know. A big help for me was the resources page on ELR. A big help was also Wayne's channel, just with even his best of brand flavorings. Like, this is Flavora's best flavors, this is TFA's best. So you start gravitating towards those. I was a little late to Chris's party. I didn't start using people's notes until well after. And then once I found out, I was like, oh, this is so much easier.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for the record, I didn't either. I didn't start doing that until after I was already mixing for like a year, maybe even almost 2 years.
Same here. I did want to add to what
really
Sifu said.
Going hard.
Yeah, dude. I did want to add to what Sifu said. Out of all like the starter kits, because almost all sites, Wizard Labs, Nick River, I think even Bull City has one, but I do think Liquid Barns is the most complete one, because you even get a scale with it and stuff. You know, you get a little bit of everything, and at that point it's just trying to find what your style is, because I mean, like, all of us here seem to be by weight grams people. We have Addy Tooney in chat. The dude loves pipettes. Like, he still will just sit there and count drops, and that is like one of those things that, like, I look at him and he's quick too. That's the more insane part of how fast he actually is. I'm like, more power to you, bro, because I cannot do that. Oh man. But I don't know what you got, Mitch. You seem like you got a thought going.
It's just funny that Sifu brought up the Liquid Barn bottle with the percentage thing on the side, because there's a few of my recipes that, I mean, I have a couple friends that just, they want a sour blue raz, and I know that the blue raz from Liquid Barn at 9% with 2% sour and another like 1%, 2% of sweetener, like that's what they want. That's what they love. And if I'm on the fly and don't want to bust out the scale and the whole 9 yards, I still have one of those bottles, and I set it right next to the bottle I'm filling, and I know, all right, there's that, and I can bust stuff out like that really quick. Those bottles and the one shots were my entry. I mean, now I still have a few that if I'm in a hurry and somebody wants watermelon and I don't want to bust out, 6 different things to do the whole process, I can grab it. And it does, like he said, it's getting comfortable doing those things.
Mhm.
That's what it's all about. It's all about getting comfortable. Because it can be intimidating, and then getting comfortable using the additives and enhancers and stuff. The enhancer pack from Liquid Barn in the beginning was my best friend. Got a sweet, got a sour, got a menthol. and in the beginning, you don't need to be having a recipe that has 10 different things in it. Keep it simple.
Yeah, I was about to say, keep it simple, stupid is actually something to live by especially when starting out, because you don't end up buying a ton of concentrates that you're probably never going to use, because it just probably won't fit your profile.
We have those.
Yeah, dude. But it's one of those things of
lots.
Then your flavor, your own mixes start building off of these one shots. Find the recipe for the one shot, and then you go, okay, so these are the things that are in it. Okay, I have this. Maybe this will turn. What if I want this? So you take a couple of pieces from that, you move it over, you start playing with it, and then you start realizing what flavors do. Okay, okay, so this is not in here, so I'm not getting it. So you start putting the pieces together of what affects what. So,
in my transition phase from getting comfortable with one shots to getting comfortable with making my own more complex recipes, there was a middle ground where I would play with play with one shots and be like, it's not quite what I want out of it. Maybe if I add something else to the mix. And that's what got me to where I am now. I mean, there's even a few recipes where trying stuff, trying it completely by out of my own head or off my computer or something, I wasn't getting everything that I wanted out of it. But going with a one shot and then making that, adding stuff and making that kind of my own, I still do that from time to time with certain recipes.
I think that there's
watermelon is a
nothing wrong
perfect
with
candidate. I always thought that it was very throaty. So I realized that if you add a marshmallow to it, it'll knock off some of that throat. So that was the first things that I was doing with watermelon is I would pour it out and then I'd pour my eyeball, just a little shot of marshmallow, and it made it a little easier for me to bake. So yeah. What do they call those in the DIY? They call them strap-ons, right?
Strap-ons.
You take somebody's mix and then kind of change them a little bit.
I wouldn't know.
I've never heard that before.
I never heard that. No. But then I never did. Again, I never did the one shots or anything like that, since my DIY era starts before that. Before all the one shots started. I mean, it's been a journey. One thing I did want to say, if you're gonna start mixing, if you buy the kits, that's very helpful because you'll get pretty much established recipes that help you. But if you want to go into the exploration on your own type route, do buy smaller bottles, maybe 30 mils or something like that, because you don't want to be making 120 60s of something that is just disgusting and you're not going to vape it and you end up dumping out a whole bottle that big, because that just turns into a waste for your personal self. And you don't want to be spending money stuff in that format. So
plus 30 ml bottles, they're cheaper. You can get them cheaper. And guess what, guys? 2 30 ml bottles, that makes 60 mils. 4 of them makes a 120. If you really like something and you ended up buying 100 30 ml bottles, it's not that hard to make 4 30 mils if you really like something. And like Clown said, it leads to less waste.
Apparently LabWorks says yes, it's strap-on. He said he used that term.
There you go.
Strap-on.
Okay, I've heard that before somewhere.
And if anybody says anything like that, I see it being a LabWorks thing Fucking Paul's ridiculous, man. Love Paul. Miss you, buddy.
Yeah, but look, these little bottles I got on Amazon. I got a pack of 20 for like, or a pack of 30 for like $12 shipped with Prime. I mean, they got nice wide.
Yeah, like, but like I got
wide
these.
mouths, or even those. Yeah.
These were like probably the equivalent of $30, like US for 100. So they're 30 cents a bottle. If I can't afford to like throw away 30 cents, sorry, recycle 30 cents, then I shouldn't be worried about anything else. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure that a lot of people, maybe not everyone here, but like I got into DIY to save money. Have I saved money? Probably.
Now you are.
Like, you know what I mean? Probably. Like I wasted a lot of money at the beginning. But now, like, I probably, if I wanted to, I could be self-sufficient. It's just for me, like, there's just some commercial juice that I'm never gonna not want to vape. Like, I just like it too much. Why am I gonna like rob myself of enjoyment? You know what I mean? That's the way that I see it. But I just want to quickly say, for people that are beginning, like this is what I've told people in the last 6 months, because you know, as time goes on and more people are like, oh yeah, you know, like Chris DIY. It's like I'm gonna ask Chris if I wanted to get into DIY, like what he would recommend. And most of the time, what I say is like, don't do anything right away, and just go on somewhere like ELR. Do as much research as you can. No, most people that are gonna get into DIY, they know what they're. And I just say, like, go to the ratings, and just click like highest rated, and just go through all those things. If there's somebody, like if there's a recipe on there that has like 100, you know, reviews, and it's like a 4-star recipe, chances are it's going to be a pretty solid recipe. Is it going to be your exact, like, oh, I really wanted a strawberries and cream, that's the exact one I wanted? I don't know if it will be or not, because not everyone's going to like the same strawberry cream. But you know what it's going to do? It's going to give you that rough idea, and you can read what people have said. Because I can't say enough like how integral ELR is to like making yourself successful quicker, because there's just so much information. So if you wanted to, and then like other people have said, you just go on there and you're like, okay, this person's strawberries, order like 10 mils of every one of them. I'll like order a DIY kit that might come with the scale and some VG and some bottles and gloves and whatever else. And I'm going to try making that recipe. Anyone can do that. As long as you know, you can like read and follow instructions, you're going to be able to do that. From that point, you now know that you either A, like that liquid and you'll make more of it and you'll have the ability to make more of it, or B, there are certain things that you want to change. Then you could try someone else's strawberries and cream if that's your desired flavor once again, and you can go from that. And after you do that a couple times, you can tweak the recipe. If you find that it's like too strong of strawberry or too much cream, you can drop the percentages and you can create your own and just keep it in your private stuff, and you can work on it, and eventually you might develop your own strawberries and cream. Will it be influenced by other people's recipes? Yeah. But you know what? There's a lot of people out there that just develop stuff without trying them from other people's recipes, and they make them their own. I don't know if they're necessarily going to be a strap on, because you know, if you're not changing anything, but you're changing all the percentages and you have the same flavorings, I mean, I guess that is kind of a strap on, but you're doing that to your own taste. Right? And you have that ability, but you can do that. And if you get to the point where you have a strawberries and cream recipe that you like, you can move to another profile, because maybe you're like, oh, I really liked a lemon cake. And then you could look at lemon cakes and you go from there. And that way you're not wasting a bunch of money on concentrates that you know aren't going to work in a recipe.
And honestly,
you know, I did that.
The rule
like
about
crazy.
the rule about comments doesn't apply to ELR, because I've learned a lot by reading the comments in the ELR, just the back and forth. Have you tried this? Can we sub this? Because I found I was looking for an RKOI clone, Rich Kids of Instagram Strawberry, for my wife, and I found one that was very, very simple. It was like 3 or 4 ingredients, and then somebody below made a few more comments. It's like, yeah, but if you did this, then it really becomes something better, you know. And then so they converse is like, oh, you're right, I tried that, that works really good. And then those two guys together banged out an RKOI clone, you know, and it's great.
Oh no, yeah. I mean that's another one where like I will say one big tool that can help you out is joining just even a Facebook group or something, because you get so many people that are actually willing to work with you. Just depending on the group, you know, there are some groups that are very anti-clone, so do be wary of their rules. If they tell you they don't do clones, don't fucking ask for clones, because you will get booted at that point. But with that being said, I mean, you can seriously get people that you just throw out, hey, I'm looking for, like, was it a year and a half ago? I was trying my hand at tobaccos, and I was like, what are some good tobaccos to buy? Because I really was already, like, on the fence about buying some or even trying that. And I got, like, I think about 100 and so comments on that. One little post of suggestions for a tobacco, and I landed on like 3 that almost everybody agreed on. But even then, it just, you actually get a pretty good conversation going where people are very enthusiastic to help and get you to where you need to be at, you know. Like, yeah, Lars a great one. All of the flavors I personally don't use. I think Addy, Toonie, Daytime Frank, they use those, but it's a paid service, so that's why I don't use it. But from what I can tell, it's still a really good service. They do the same exact thing. They have a liquor calculator, and you could actually have discussions with people about flavorings and can you sub out things, because I mean sometimes you don't have that flavoring but you have something close enough, and you could ask that question of, can I sub something? I might not have, like, say Capella raspberry, but can I use like a TFA raspberry, and at what percentages can I do it? And, you know, those are things where you could start working on tweaking your recipes, kind of like the guys were mentioning. Let's see, any other points that you guys might have? Get a good nicotine. Seriously, buy good nicotine. Don't, that's one of those things you can't cheap out on. Don't try to find some discount thing. Do what?
Learn how to store it. I had
Learn how to store it. Yes.
I had an
Refrigerate it. If you're gonna buy a giant bottle of it, refrigerate it and pour out a little bit on like a 60 ml bottle or something, and just use that, because you don't want to be pulling out that bottle all the time, because that actually ages it quicker than just using a little bit at a time here and there, especially if you buy a big portion of it.
Get a big portion, put it in an amber bottle, pour some out for you for your daily use, and then freeze that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Put it in the damn freezer, because I had an episode where I was mixing orders late last night, and I finally finished out one of my bottles, and then I go to get another one that I knew that I had, opened it up, and it smelled like stale tobacco. And it's like 500 milliliters cannot use of nicotine.
And that's down the drain. And even at its cheapest, nicotine is not cheap. It's still.
See, you know what? Maybe that's like a benefit that I have, because where I get nicotine from, the biggest bottle I can get is 120.
Yeah.
So, like, there's been times, believe me, when I'm like, God dang, you know, like, I just feel like I ordered this, but I have to order more. Like, I ordered more nicotine. That was one of the things that came in the package today. So what did I do? I just instantly, like, put it in the freezer. That's how I store it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, like, you can go through 120 pretty quick, but I don't make liquid for orders. Like, I basically make liquid for myself, and then on occasions, you know, if I'm trying something new, or I'll like ship out some to some friends, just as like a, hey, you know, like, enjoy this. And I'm never really making like liters of liquid. I might make, you know, 20 60s, and that'll be like every 3 months. So for me, it's not that big of a deal. I do wish, though, that I could get VG, because VG I can only get it in 1 gallon. Or not 1 gallon, sorry, 1 liter. 1,000 milliliters. That's the biggest I can get. And it sucks when you order like 3 of them, and then you have like, just, it's a lot of space. Whatever. Yeah. So you guys are lucky, okay? You guys are lucky.
Anthony Romella asks, when it comes to making liquid sweeter, what do you guys recommend? Sucralose or a sweet flavor, or sweet flavor like marshmallow?
I personally try to sweeten through the concentrates as opposed to overloading it with the sucralose.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel that my money combination has been meringue and marshmallow, especially something with the fruit in it. Because some flavorings are just naturally sweeter than others. So you can get sweetener in there, you know, with my root beer especially. I get it through sweet cream, marshmallow, and meringue. And then I still only use 0.5% of sucralose, of super sweet. And it is plenty sweet. You know, it's, you don't go, I wish this was sweeter kind of thing, you know. So that's what I like to do. I like to, and I like to build that sweetness in the middle of the mix. Because if you try to get it on the top, it feels hollow. And if you try to put it in the bottom, it's heavy. You know, like I know you guys are familiar with the FA Premium custard, how it has that heaviness. You know, so if you try to over sweeten that thing, it just makes it more heavy. So I try to get it my sweetness through other additives besides the sucralose. I don't like to add too much sucralose.
That's one thing that that I rarely. I mean, I feel like I've reached a point where I don't get a whole lot of negative feedback from my friends and stuff. But the one thing they do tell, a lot of them use sub-ohm tanks. I do all of my. I don't even own a sub-ohm tank.
Yeah.
I've given all of them away.
You do
and
high
so
heat.
I test everything on drippers.
Yeah.
And so I'll get the one comment I get is, "Oh, the flavor was really good, but it wasn't sweet enough." And I'm like, "Well, that's because you like to vape $10 60s from the local shop, and it's like got 10% sucralose in it."
Right.
Like, I don't make that. Like, I make stuff that is great on coils, but still has awesome flavor.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Like, I have tried to, depending on the person who's getting the juice, if I know like what they're vaping it out of, try to increase the amount of sweetener depending on that for my, you know, but.
Well, Mitch, do you find that RTAs highlight sucralose? On RTA? Like sometimes I notice that if I put one of my mixes into an RTA that's great in a dripper, I will get like a diet, you know how like a Diet Coke has that sucralose, you can taste it. You know, it
feel
feels
like
artificial.
Like for a while I was doing some of my testing. For a while, one of my favorite RTAs was the Rebirth, and I really liked it. But I felt like I was getting, like in that RTA especially, it didn't matter how I did it, I would get muted flavor, but the sweetness would come through more. I don't seem to be having that sort of issue with either of the blottos. But I try, like normally I use just a single coil, like my recurve. I use a recurve with the 22 millimeter conversion cap. That way I can just throw a couple drops, vape it, and then if it's not right, it's just easy to throw a new piece of cotton through it real
I use
fast.
my Reload S for testing myself, but ultimately I'm like you. I test them on mech builds.
Yeah, same here.
That's what I want.
I don't know. Just random question for you, Mitch. What ratios do you mix at? 70-30, or do you go a little higher on the VG?
It depends.
Okay.
I mean, most of my stuff seems to float in between 80-20 and 70-30.
See, and that I think that if you were to, like, at least for sub-ohm, if you were to switch your ratio to maybe a 70-30, it might boost that sweetener without having to add a lot of sweetener. Because that's like Labworks a while back, because he's in here, he reminded me of this. I was trying to figure out how to do like MTL mixes of all my recipes, and I was thinking, well, maybe if I double up the flavorings or something like that. And he's like, no, just change your PG-VG ratios and that's it. You keep the recipe the same. I'm like, well, ain't that some shit? Yeah, I should have just fucking known that already. So that does play a little bit into it. Like the more the PG actually brings out more the flavorings, that's what helps out boost the flavoring. So that's kind of where it would help you out a little bit.
Well, a good tip for everybody is that once you're happy with your ratios in the calculator, you can just go to the wrench and change the percentage of the whole thing. Like something that I've done is that once I was happy with the balance of the mix, I would go to the calculator and start turning it up until I hit that note, and then just back it off, just just a little bit, you know, because your first mix might end up being at 5, 6, 7%, and then I found I had the best results with everything, you know, pods, tanks, you know, around 13 to 16-ish%, you know, depending on what it is.
Yeah, like that's the thing, right? Like, so if I'm making certain things, like let's just say I'm making a vanilla custard, with some of the flavorings that I'm really familiar with when I'm making vanilla custard, like it's probably going to be around 15%. But this liquid that I'm mixing up right now, okay, it's got less than 8%. But I have a feeling that it's going to be pretty fucking bright. Because of the flavorings that I'm using, they're just stronger. They go further. And maybe that's partly why I like using flavor art shit so much, because I feel like a lot of their stuff is bright, and you don't need to use such a high percent. Like if you make like a mix with flavor art and it's like 15-16%, and a lot of its flavor art stuff, I don't know, I think it'll be like too busy that you'll lose what you're trying to get. But there's going to be some flavorings, like you said, you know, if you're using a bunch of flavorings or certain flavorings where you have to throw it in at 2%, 3% to even get it into that mix, if you do that with 4 or 5 flavors, you're at 15%.
Yeah.
God, I had something I was gonna say, but I've completely on this whole sweetener thing. I don't dabble in fruits all that much. I don't really do candies all that much at all. Honestly, I do like pastries, and even then I try to go for a more natural, realistic taste versus just making it sweet. So I personally don't use sweeteners all that much. Like I do use like erythritol here and there as like a sweet booster, but even then I've even started kind of going away from that to where I just kind of mix it with very non-existent sweetener. I just let the flavors play and speak for themselves.
Yeah, I'm not really scared to use sweetener, but it's not my first. That's not like the first thing I try to fix something with.
Yeah.
No. I always start at 0.5%. You know, and then sometimes even 0.5% for me, I'm like, whoa, take it easy, bro. You know, that's a little too much. You know.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever mixed with even a 2% ever.
Yeah.
But like I'm sure that there's probably liquids that I vape that have it, and I've enjoyed the hell out of them. So like, I don't even know if like I think that it's terrible. I just also think that a bad mix can't be saved by the sweetener. You know what I mean?
No, I completely get that. And I mean, that's where, like, as Mitch put it earlier, the $10 juices, you're saving $1 here and there, but in the end, you're just getting mostly just sugar, honestly.
Yeah.
And I mean,
yeah, like they're spending more money on coils for their sub-ohm tanks
because they will destroy your coils. That's very true.
I mean?
And you want to be as gentle as you can be with the coils and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I've already ran, I think, like 150 mils of liquid through these coils with the same wicking, and it's still pretty clean looking. And that's just from not using a whole lot of sweetener.
Yeah, but I mean, like, dude, believe me, I can mix something up, put 0 sweetener in it, and it's gonna make your coils not great after 40 mils.
Yeah, that at that point,
like, it depends on the flavorings, right?
It does depend on the flavorings, but the sweetener does destroy everything a lot quicker.
Yeah. All right, so here, first time, Norgirl WS23 drip.
Oh, you're putting it in there?
Yeah, we're gonna give it a go.
I'm actually looking forward to trying this. I'm gonna have to shake it for a bit though.
Well, it's gonna kind of suck because I had my nicotine problem. So
So it's gonna be a 0 nic?
it'll be a zero nic, which drives me nuts because, you know, that's something that mixers need to understand too, is that
Oh, nicotine affects everything.
nicotine affects the way that things taste.
You can mix zero nic, especially if you're just like somebody that vapes for the flavors and stuff. You can mix zero nic, but the nicotine, especially with steeping and aging it, it will affect the flavor later on. And like I have a couple of juices that are zero nic, and I do vape them zero nic, but they do have that like feeling where it's missing something. It is the nicotine, but it just feels like it's missing something.
Dude, I feel like zero nic, and like I should not feel this way, but I feel that zero nic is like Diet Coke. Like Diet Coke, it still tastes like pop. It's still got sweet.
You want that cane sugar. You want, you know.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, in reality, that is what it is. I mean, there's no way to deny that. But I mean, there are some people that either vape for flavors, just to like keep their sweet tooth under control. There are some people that have gotten at that point of vaping where they don't necessarily need the nicotine, but the other psychological aspects like hand to mouth feel and stuff like that, they still need that portion of it. So that's where you get the zero nic vapors and stuff.
Like for me, like nicotine, I will. Okay, so I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I will always vape nicotine. I'll never, like, I either will quit vaping and do nothing, or I will continue to vape nicotine, because to me, it's like maybe I just have this like weird angle. Like I don't really care. I used to smoke fucking cigarettes, and you know what they did? They literally made me feel terrible. They are filled with nicotine. Like, if all that I've kept going with is a lower amount of nicotine than I used to with cigarettes, I'm fine with that, man. Like, I'm literally fine with that. I'd be like, if I drank all the time, but I didn't want to, like, take alcohol, but I still want a beer, I'd be fine with drinking 0.5% alcohol. I don't need to, like, quit even 0.5%. Like, there's still something there, but it's that similar, like, that feeling's there. You don't get drunk, whatever. I could drop to 1 milligram nicotine, but I'll always have nicotine.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't think that that's bad.
I mean, it's like one thing about vaping, it's all to your taste. That's one of those things versus smoking itself. You could actually cater it to what you want. I mean, like, you know, if you're a sub-ohm guy, if you're still rocking a C4 tank for some weird reason, you're still finding them and stuff. You could keep doing that until the day you die. You know, it's one of those things that you don't have to, like, follow the current trends and stuff like that. It's really up to you what you find is comfortable and what you're on. Like, all my coworkers at work are just sub-ohm tank guys with one mod, one tank, and that's it. They don't buy like 1.5 million gear. Even they look at me like I'm the crazy person. They're like, "Well, why do you need that?" I was like, "Because I wanted it. I don't know what to say to you." You know, it's like there are some people that just like keeping it more simple. You know, and that's okay.
And while I have my calculator and stuff out, here's a tip for new mixers. You put your you put your bottles on one side. You drip into the bottle, and you put it on this side.
Yeah, that way you know which one you've already
done. Always double check, triple check, quadruple check your labels before you drip, because I've done that so many times where I've you know, grabbed the wrong flavoring and you know, poured in, you know, 4% of super sweet instead of 4% of sweet guava, you know, because the labels look, because it says super sweet, sweet guava, my brain reads them exactly the same. So
yeah, or if you're like mixing in multiple bottles, like let's say you're gonna mix like 4 60s of one flavor, I don't like go through and mix every single one, and then I got mix like the full mix with 160, and then I move it off and then I start fresh and do the whole. I'll do it step by step by step. So I'll do exactly what Sifu's saying. Like I'll start with the empty bottle. I put in the first concentrate. I move it over to the right. Then I grab the bottle, another one, and then I put the concentrate in. And when I'm done with that concentrate through all 4, now all 4 bottles that I've just put that concentrate in and that concentrate are on my right side because I'm right-handed. And then I pull it back, and then I do it all again. And I keep doing that. And I've been pretty good. I think that there was like one time that I sent, like, when I went to the States, I like sent out some friends, and my friend was like, "Oh," she's like, you didn't send me a butterscotch custard." And I was like, no, I did for sure. I was like, is it labeled butterscotch custard? She's like, yeah, it is. And this was like, I couldn't believe that I fucked up, but I did, because
Well,
then I sent her the butterscotch custard after. She's like, yeah, I did not get that before. It was the vanilla.
yeah.
And I
And
was
if you're
like,
doing multiple
I sent-
mixes,
I sent
label
Clown-
everything as soon as you finish filling
That's
that
what I
bottle.
I have to label it all before as I go.
Yeah.
I did send Clown. He asked for the reserve, and I was making a bunch of orders, and I guess I pulled up the wrong recipe. I made the bottle for him, reading the wrong recipe. It never dawned on me that I never put apple or anything else in here for the reserve. I labeled it reserve. And sent it to him. So
Oh man. Alrighty. We're coming to the last bits of the show here. Mitch, since you don't seem too busy, you want to like pimp out some stuff?
Yeah, and if
I think I threw him off.
check out my Instagram. I've been trying to post more on there. I did something kind of funny happened the other day. I had a memory pop up that was like one of my first like vaping pictures that I started posting on there,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized that I went back and looked, and I'm like, yeah, it's only got like 15 likes on it, and then it was like right after that was when I like finally figured out what hashtags were and how those worked. And now like my latest picture, like some of them have like over 100, and I'm like, holy crap. And I've climbed from, I had like 200 people, like followers, and I'm just hit over 700 a couple days ago. So a 500 people growth in a year without doing anything too crazy besides just sharing pictures of vape stuff and my daughter, not pimping out follows.
Yeah.
So yeah, you want to check out my Instagram. I'm also all over Twitter, but most of that's just a bunch of retweets from Logan or Grim.
There are links down in the description if you guys want to follow anybody. Just letting you know.
Oh yeah, I forgot to send you that, but I'll get that to you. But yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to hit me up. I also always tell people, if you're going through something, I'm a recovering addict. If you need somebody to talk to, I'm always there, always ready to answer. So yeah, that's about all I got.
Alrighty, who wants to go next?
doesn't matter.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, you got it.
I'll go. I should have said it doesn't matter. I'll go. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Hopefully before Jay, finishes everything up, I'll at least have tried this mix here, because I'm just re-wicking the Hermetic, because I was like, oh, a nice single coil banger that I can wick up quick. All right, well, once again, thanks everybody for tuning in. You can check me out on Instagram if you want, but honestly, like, I'm sorry, I don't really post much on there. I need to, but I just don't. I like one of those people that like I really want to make nice pictures, but I don't have the ability, so that stops me from posting any pictures. So I need to get over that. You can check me out, obviously, here next Tuesday. You can check me out on ELR Overdrip. I just posted what I made tonight, I think, and if I didn't, I'll make sure that I do after we're done. You can find me on Frames Janklin Vapor Channel's Friday night show, The Green Room. I'm a co-panelist there, as well as I'm also on the Shutdown podcast, which you can check us out on SoundCloud. And we actually have a really big giveaway going. So if you want, you can check us out basically any other place you can get a podcast, but the giveaway is going to be all through SoundCloud. So you should probably check that out. You can also check out shedtimepodcast.com, and it's basically all the stuff about the podcast, as well as it covers pretty much anything we got on the Green Room. We actually have a pretty cool guest this Friday on the Green Room. I don't know if I should say who it is. It's just somebody that's like pretty relevant to right now in vaping, some like cool things that have been happening. They're going to be on the show, so you guys should come check it out. Other than that, I think that's everything. Yeah, I'm going to just let Sifu go now.
I'm on the Instagrams. I'm in the Facebooks. I'm in the on ELR. All of my mixes are open right now, along with this I called it Gin Xer. This gin mix. It's actually got a lot of potential. So check that out. And my email is sifumustache@gmail.com. You can email me with any questions that you have. I'm on a few Discords. I'm in a few Facebook rooms, and yeah. And if you want any of my liquids, you just PM me. I'll give you my cut sheet, and they go out. I mix made to order. I'll mix it that night, ship the next day. So
nice. Alrighty. I wanted to start with thank you, Addy, for all the links, man. I know we don't really hit on advocacy a whole lot. Like, for the most part, I do want to keep this show as just a mixing type thing. But with that being said, Australia right now needs everybody's help. Anybody out there, I know a majority of you guys are out there pushing really hard for Australia. Make the phone calls, tweet, all that kind of thing. You know, try to get as much out there as you can, because right now Australia is hurting. They have literally 8-9 days left before their new nicotine regulation goes into effect, and it's going to be a hard time. And it's turned into a whole, you know, back to smoking or you're fucked. And it's one of those things of, you know, it's going to be a rough time. I mean, here in the States, we've seen flavor bans go through, and we've seen how that has affected people. A lot of people have gone back to smoking just because it's one of those things that people do forget that this is an actual addiction. It's not just one of those things that you pick up and you could just let go so easily. You know, a lot of people, when they look at addiction, they think more like heavier drugs, like, you know, the heavier stuff. Like, I don't know, YouTube probably flag me if I say any of them. Either way, you know what I'm talking about. But like nicotine, to whatever extreme you want to look at it, it does fall into that category. It is highly addictive, and it's one of those things that I've tried cold turkey a couple times in my life, and somehow I ended up back. And vaping has been the one thing that has kept me away from cigarettes for close to, what years? Like, well, at least the last 5-6 years. I've been vaping for a little longer, but I have seriously been off of cigarettes for that long. I haven't had a cigarette, nor have I had a craving for a cigarette. So it's one of those things, and I've even toned down the nicotine, and these are things that, like, they really don't mention. Like, they don't care to mention. They don't care to hear our end of the story, and we need to have our voice be heard to one extreme or another. Like, we have to be loud, and we have to push for our freedoms. I mean, honestly, that's what it boils down to. So thank you again, Addy Tooney, for posting the links. And I know even Paul, he's out of Australia. Breeze Tones, these are people we all know. For some of us, they are very close to your friends, and we're seeing our friends getting fucked over hard here. So come on, we gotta stand up for them. With that all said, yeah, you can check out my ELR. The link is down below somewhere, I think. If not, I'll try to make sure I get it added on there. Then come hang out here on Thursday for Wolfbite. We will be doing some fun stuff, and apparently I need to talk to Sifu about that, because Frank just let it be. I got it the first time. I'll tell you after the show. What's it called? Come hang out with us on Wolfbite, and then on Mondays we have Vaping with the Ohmies. Come hang out with us. We do have a very special guest. If you guys caught on to the joke that both James and Corey did, you kind of would know who the guest is, but we're excited to have him on the show. Awesome dude, just fun times. And you know, you don't have to slap a lot of PG for your juice to be delicious. Now you guys get that one right. But what's it called? Other than that, if you guys want any juice or quotes I make, go check out kvtvshop.com. I just did a whole revamp of the website over the weekend. I added some bundle packs at a discounted price. Yeah, so you get them at a lower price than you would the normal bottles, but then if you just want to get an individual one, you can. And for the 4th of July, I already have a sale set up, so that should drop on Monday of that week. And then coils, if you guys are interested in like coils, I still need to add like the other 3 variants that I do on those, because I do like aliens, I do small aliens, or at least that's what I call them. They're the 28 gauge cores. Then like fuse Claptons, tricore Claptons, and all that fun stuff. So if you got that in mind, and then the Teespring for Wolfbite KV stuff, and Patreon. I do have a Patreon if you guys want to help the channel grow and help me along with some of this stuff. Any little bit is truly appreciated. Besides that, yeah, I think that's it. That covers the whole thing, the whole spiel. Alrighty, so we'll catch you guys here next week. We'll have another good show planned and all that kind of thing. But until then, you know, as always, mix on, a vape on. I love the spin. That was great.